Hi, hand readers. Today's topic is the fire hand shape archetype. And if you don't know what an archetype is, it's basically a collectively inherited unconscious idea, pattern of thought, image, or model, which is universally present in our individual psyches. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Jennifer. I'm a Johannesburg-based chirology and palmistry practitioner, teacher, and author. I've been doing this work for almost 30 years, and the purpose of this channel is to support you in your study of hand reading. Archetypes are known to us intuitively. If I say to you that person's fiery or watery or whatever the case might be in terms of the elements, you'll immediately have a sense of that person being, for example, very energetic, or if they're watery, being very sensitive. So there's this intuitive knowing and understanding that we have of these element archetypes. But fire people, in the true sense, are going to be energetic, they're going to be enthusiastic, there'll be a quality in them maybe where they can transform the lives of others. There's a kind of an experiential energy in the fire person. And these are really principles of fire. They're linked to what fire does in nature and very scientific concepts. Then if we look a little bit more into the characteristics of fiery people, we see that they are, for example, very restless, they're easily bored, they're creative, they're enthusiastic, I think I mentioned, and they might have a strong will, they might have a strong directive, and they're initiators. And there are, again, a whole, as I've mentioned several times, there's a whole list, there's a whole array, like a vocabulary list of fire qualities that go with understanding how to read the fire hand shape type person. I myself have a fire hand shape type. It has an oblong palm with fingers that are short in relation to the length of my palm. It's narrower than it is long. And here's an image as well that you can look at to see what it might look like on a print. The system, as I've just mentioned, that I use is a 5-element chirology system. And in this way, we break down that basic fire archetypal shape into a subcategorization of the earth, water, fire, and air level. And it's always in that order. We talk earth, water, fire, air, chi. This is to do with what we call the principle of graduated materiality. I have made a video on that. It's talking about how the elements manifest in different gradients of, let's say, vibrational frequency. So earth, being the most dense, relates to the person's health, the way they like to eat, their family, their home, their money, all the sort of really earthy, tactile things that you can really have a sense of materialism around. And earth, the earth level of the fire hand-shaped type can eat anything. Fire people are mostly quite sort of robust in their constitution. They don't easily get sick, although we could look towards inflammatory conditions, conditions that come and go quite quickly, that might be something that they might be predisposed to, the itises, the inflammatory stuff. In terms of the way they like to eat, well, it could be anything from fast foods to, let's say, not enjoying long drawn-out meals, liking to eat, and maybe if they do have a long drawn-out meal, there's some sort of goal in mind. Maybe it's a business deal, maybe it's an intimate conquest. This is a very general and basic introduction to these qualities and characteristics, and there's so much more. This is just giving you a little bit of an idea. Let's say the fire person's attitude to money could be very expansive, and they perhaps purchase things for investment value. In the water level of the fire archetype person, we're looking at how do they relate emotionally, what's happening with their sexual lives, their intimate lives, and their general relationships and friendships, as well as their emotional equanimity or equilibrium. Now, when it comes to their emotions, basically we could say they're a little bit impatient with a lot of subjective inquiry. They wouldn't really like that deep delving, say, that the water handshake type is orientated towards. It's a question of preferring to move on, like be done with the past and move on, and not dwell on past grievances and not hold grudges. When it comes to their intimate lives, it's a question of taking time to commit very often. It's a very broad spectrum concept, this, and it won't apply to all fire people, but because of their low boredom threshold and the restlessness, it could be a question of many partners and so on. And their sex lives or their relationship lives, really, it needs to be a lot of shared dynamic experiences, having fun together, being out and about, really just keeping things spontaneous. Shadow traits in the relationship area could be linked to jealousy. It could also show things like domination and cruelty. That would be the underbelly, the unredeemed of the negative side of the fire archetype person. And now we come to the fire level of the fire-shaped hand, and this pertains to their career, their level of creativity versus self-destructiveness, and their general joie de vivre, their general energy to live. Of course, most fire people have quite a tremendous amount of energy to live, and they are also hugely creative people. These are the creatives of the world. However, there is the tendency to self-sabotage. So if you look at the greats in our society, Amy Winehouse comes to mind, someone who's like a magnificent, shining creative energy or talent, who at the same time basically self-sabotages and shoots herself in the foot and basically snuffs herself out ultimately. So there's an example of what we say in our element system of the particular element gone rampant. In this case, fire has gone rampant. There's an excess of fire to the point of burning the candle at both ends. In other words, there's nothing left at the end. But that is in the unredeemed, that is in the far end of the spectrum of the, let's say, the negative side of the fire person, because on the positive side, in the career environment, these are the CEOs, the leaders, the directors, the movers and groovers and changers and shakers and so on. In the work environment, it's all about keeping busy, being stimulated, being enterprising. These are very ambitious and self-motivated people. Movie directors would fit into the fire energy category. So would people in the military, as well as sports people, very strong sporty types would have a strong fire energy. Now we come to the air level of the fire handshake type. How do they think? How do they communicate? And what is their intellectual orientation? What is their potential intellectually? And let's start with communication. It's all about direct, upfront, honest, straight to the point. There's no waffling around. I would say the fire people generally loathe waffling. They loathe long, boring, drawn-out stories. There wouldn't be a whole hell of a lot of patience for that. And then, of course, academically, they could be very sharp, very incisive, very intelligent. There's a huge range of possibilities on the academic front. And on the other hand, also, it just comes to mind that sometimes you get a fire person who doesn't have a lot of formal education, and yet they've brought in all these innovative qualities and been able to find a niche for themselves in the world in a very creative way. And then lastly, we come to the chi level, the spiritual level of the fire handshake archetype. How do they pray? How do they devote? And on the one end of the spectrum, you have these fundamentalists, the extreme wars in the name of religion would be a perfect example of fire gone rampant in that regard, in that chi area. And chi representing, of course, your spiritual life. And then on the other side of the coin, or the other end of the spectrum, you might have the type of Tony Robbins of the world, people who are like, they're really rah-rah campaigning for consciousness and enlightenment and upliftment and relieving others, but not through a particular religious persuasion as such. These are people who attract and transform the lives of others in ways that are very energetic, they exude this tremendous energy, very fervent energy. They engage very vigorously with others, perhaps in self-improvement systems. One last thing, can't forget to say that they may have no religious orientation at all, because fire adds practicality. So it could be that certain fire people don't go there. It's not that they're even agnostic or atheist or have a very strong viewpoint. It's just a matter of getting on with the job of living. Next week, I'll be talking about the air hand-shaped archetype. Lovely to be with you. Please like, subscribe, and share, and have a look at my website. There's all sorts of interesting topics there. And again, anything you'd like me to support you with the hand reading process, comment below or contact me directly. Bye for now.